Morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Audible, sir.
The topic that we are going to discuss today is exchange rate. Exchange rate is the price of one country's currency expressed in terms of another country's currency. Had there been only one currency in the world, there would not be the need for exchange rate, because all trade could have been conducted in that single currency. But this is not the case. Every country or most of the countries have their own currency, and when they trade with each other, different currencies are involved. So, for example, if India is exporting IT services, it wants its revenue to be expressed in Indian rupee, because it has to make payment to its employees in Indian rupees. It has to prepare its balance sheet and profit and loss account, and it has to pay taxes in Indian rupees. So even if it receives a dollar as payment from its clients, from its customers, ultimately it has to convert that dollar into Indian rupee. So every country has its own currency, and when it is required to exchange one currency with another currency, that market is called foreign exchange market. Foreign exchange market. Foreign exchange means currency of another country, or in short, sometimes people also call it, or financial press also terms it as forex. Forex, which is a short form for foreign exchange. So foreign exchange means foreign currency, and the market where foreign exchange is traded with each other, it is exchanged with each other, is called foreign exchange market or forex market. And exchange rate is the price of one country's currency expressed in terms of another's. So if we have a dollar and we want to express the value of dollar in terms of Indian rupee, that is exchange rate. For example, 1 USD is equal to 76 rupees. So 76 rupees. So it is expressed as rupees 76 per dollar. So we write like this: 76 per dollar. So it is expressed like this. So this is what? This is exchange rate. This is the value of USD in terms of Indian rupee. Value of US dollar in terms of Indian rupee. So similarly, every country has its own currency, except a few. So when the value of those currencies are expressed in terms of domestic currency, that is called exchange rate. And there are various systems. So these currencies are traded in the foreign exchange market, and sometimes they appreciate, and and sometimes they depreciate. So currency appreciation and depreciation is a very important concept. So an increase in the market value of the currency relative to another currency is called currency appreciation, and a decrease in the market value of a currency relative to another currency is called currency depreciation. So let us understand it by an example. Say, for example, right now the exchange rate is 76 rupees per dollar, and it changes to 78 rupees per dollar. So if I ask you, is it a currency appreciation from the perspective of Indian rupees, or is it a currency depreciation?
So currency depreciation.
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 Increasing.
It's a loss
So,
to the country.
okay, Karatika, and almost all of you are correct that it's currency depreciation, because the dollar is becoming stronger. Earlier, dollar was able to purchase, a single dollar was able to fetch 76 rupees. But now the same dollar is fetching, or the same dollar is able to purchase 78 rupees. So in another words, we can say that dollar is becoming stronger. The purchasing power of dollar has increased, and if the purchasing power of dollar has increased, the reverse is also true, that we can say that if dollar has become stronger, rupee has become weaker. So rupee has depreciated and dollar has appreciated. So if one one currency's appreciation is another currency's depreciation, or one currency's depreciation is appreciation of another currency. So because one currency's value is being expressed in terms of another, so the movement will be opposite. If one is becoming stronger, another currency will become weaker in relation to some particular currency, because we cannot talk in absolute terms. If we are saying that rupee is becoming weaker, so the next question is weaker to relative to which currency? Relative to, so in this case, rupee is becoming weaker relative to US dollar. So this is called currency appreciation and depreciation. There are various factors that impact or that causes the appreciation and depreciation of rupee. We will look at some of the reasons and determinants because of which in some cases currency appreciates, and in some other cases a particular currency depreciates. So exchange rate is determined by the forces of demand and supply, just like it happens in other markets, that rates are determined by the forces of demand and supply. If demand is more for a particular currency, the currency is expected to appreciate. The currency is expected to become stronger. If the demand is less, or in other words, if the supply is more, in that case, the currency is expected to depreciate. So this is the basic concept, that if demand is more, the currency is expected to appreciate. If the demand is less and supply is more, in that case, the currency is expected to depreciate. So now the logical next step is to think about how the demand for a particular currency is generated. What are the factors behind demand? So if the dollar is demanded, so why from where the demand for dollar is being created? Why demand for dollar is increasing? So so the demand for dollars. So the first reason is import of goods and services. So the demand for dollar is more. It simply means that the goods and services which are manufactured in US are more in demand in foreign countries. And whoever is purchasing American goods and services has to make payment in terms of dollar. And since they don't possess or they don't own dollar, so they have to purchase dollar in the foreign exchange market, and then they have to make transaction. Normally what happens, our bank facilitates this kind of transaction. Even if we have Indian rupee in our account, the bank basically converts that Indian rupee into foreign currency and then makes payment and charges some fee from that person. But the basic concept is that if how the demand for US dollar is more. So the one major reason is that the demand for American goods and services are very high in the rest of the world. So this creates demand for dollars. In other words, if I talk in terms of Indian rupee, then I can say that Indian goods and services are not much in demand in the rest of the world. And if we want to make Indian rupee stronger, what we can do at a macroeconomic level, at the the whole India level, we can create demand for Indian rupee by producing goods and services which are in demand in the rest of the world. If the Indian goods and services are in demand in the rest of the world, then the demand for Indian rupee will increase and Indian rupee will appreciate as a result. As a consequence, Indian rupee will become stronger. So first, what we have talked about, first we saw that the demand and supply determines the exchange rate. Then we are talking about the underlying causes, underlying factors that create the demand. So the demand is created by import of goods and services. The more our goods and services are in demand in the rest of the world, the more will be the demand for our currency. So if Indian goods and services are of best quality, they are into demand in the rest of the world, then the demand for Indian rupee will be more, and as a consequence, Indian rupee will appreciate relative to the rest of the world's currencies. This is the first point. Then the next point is investment of uh, resident X in foreign countries. So if Indian financial assets are more into demand, then foreign capital will flow into India. Suppose there is a person in Singapore and he thinks that Indian equities are more attractive. The investment opportunities in India are very lucrative. So first he has to transfer the Singaporean dollar in India and convert that Singaporean dollar into Indian rupee. Then only he or she can purchase Indian financial assets, Indian equities, Indian stocks. So that is called foreign portfolio investment or foreign institutional investors. If it's institution, they are not retail investors, they are not individuals, but institutions. In that case, the word is foreign institutional investors. So if Indian stocks are into demand, if investment in India is more attractive, then the capital will flow to India. Capital will flow to India. There is always a capital in the world which is in search of investment opportunity. And if Indian stocks are lucrative, if they think that India presents a very attractive opportunity for investment, and they can get a better return on their investment in India, then they will invest in India. Since they don't possess in Indian rupee, so whatever currency they have, first they have to convert those currencies into Indian rupees. So if it is an American who wants to invest in India, first he has to convert in the US dollar into Indian rupee. Then using that Indian rupee, Indian assets or Indian stocks can be purchased. So this is also one of the driver of the demand for Indian rupee. So if Indian financial assets are into demand, if investment in India is attractive, is a good opportunity in the eyes of the investors, global investors, then Indian assets would be in demand, in high demand, and to purchase Indian assets, the demand, they have to purchase Indian rupee. So this will create demand for Indian rupee, and as a result, Indian rupee will appreciate. The opposite is also true, that if Indians are not investing in Indian stocks and they are interested into foreign stocks, then the capital will flow from India to some other countries, and this will create supply for Indian rupee, and as a result, Indian rupee will depreciate. So things that create the demand for Indian rupee will result into Indian rupee's appreciation, and things that uh, generate or that create supply for Indian rupee will cause Indian rupee depreciation. The third point is repayment of loans and interest payments of foreign loans. So if a particular country has taken loan from India, uh, so in whatever currency the loan is determined is expressed, that currency is expected to appreciate. So if a US bank is lending money in to a lot of other countries, so other countries are expected to make payment of principal amount as well as interest payment. So this will create the demand for US dollar, and US dollar will become stronger. Similarly, if there are Indian banks, and Indian banks are lending money to other institutions which are situated in some other countries, and the borrowers then have to make payment of principal as well as interest payment on their borrowings, and this will create the demand for that particular currency, and this will result into currency appreciation. So these are three basic there are other factors also, but these are just for example that, and these are the 3 points that create the demand for domestic currency. We can think in terms of dollars also. If we are living in India, we can think in terms of Indian rupee also. And so if we are thinking in terms of Indian rupee, so if Indian rupee is appreciating, in that case, US dollar will depreciate. And if US dollar is appreciating, then Indian rupee will be depreciating. I mean, the effect will be opposite of each other. Now the supply of dollar, the demand for rupee. So export of goods and services. So just like import, if we are importing something from US, it will create the demand for US dollar. But if we are exporting something from India, then then they have to make payment in Indian rupees. So this will create the demand for Indian rupees. So the impact of import is just the opposite of the impact of export. So export will create the demand for Indian rupee, and import will create supply of Indian rupees. So export. So the more a country exports its goods and services, the more its currency will become stronger. And the more a country is importing goods and services, its currency is expected to depreciate. Or we can talk in terms of GDP also, because some part of the GDP is consumed in the domestic market, and some of the part of the GDP is exported and consumed by the rest of the world. So if a country's GDP is increasing relative to another current country, then the currency of that country is expected to appreciate. Because in other words, the goods and services that are manufactured are very high in that country, and they are being exported to other countries, and as a result, the demand for their currency is high. So at a very basic level, if a country wants to make its currency stronger, there is no shortcut way. There are no shortcut measures. The long term measure is that it should focus on producing high quality goods and services that are being capable of exported, and this will create the demand for the domestic currency. Foreign capital and short term funds coming to country. So this is uh, also the point that I have highlighted, that if foreign capital is interested in India, then Indian currency will appreciate. If Indian investment money is interested for investment in US, then Indian currency will depreciate. The third point is earnings from tourism. Tourists. This is also the one of the point. The equilibrium exchange rate is the exchange rate at which the quantity of a currency demanded in the foreign exchange market is equal to the quantity supplied. So the forces of demand and supply interact with each other, and as a result, the point where the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity supplied, that point is called equilibrium point or equilibrium exchange rate. So the downward sloping line here is the demand for US dollar, and the upward sloping line is the supply of US dollar. And the point where they are interacting with each other is the point E, that is equilibrium. So if the supply is constant and demand for that particular currency has increased from D1 to D2, the demand curve has shifted rightwards. The supply is constant. The supply has not been increased. Then it will result in appreciation of the exchange rate. And if earlier exchange rate was XR1, the exchange rate was XR1, or the equilibrium was E1. But now, because the demand of that particular currency, or in this case we are talking about US dollar, so US dollar demand has increased from D1 to D2, so the equilibrium has shifted upwards. Now exchange rate is earlier it was XR1, now it is XR2. So an increase in the demand for the US dollars leads to an appreciation of the US dollar. So similarly, if Indian rupee will be demanded more and the supply is constant, there is concept of money supply or the supply of so Indian rupee. So if we are keeping or assuming that the supply of Indian rupee is constant, but the demand for Indian rupee has increased, so this will result into appreciation of Indian rupee. Foreign exchange market is too important to be left entirely to the market forces. So normally the rates are determined by the forces of demand and supply, but sometimes the government also intervenes in the market if it thinks that the market is not behaving correctly. So sometimes the government or through its central bank, for example, in India we have Reserve Bank of India, and in US we have Federal Reserve Bank. So these central bankers sometimes intervene in the market to achieve some particular objective. For example, if the Indian rupee is depreciating, and as a result, the investors are panicking. So to control this situation, sometimes the government intervene in the market to control this depreciation, or in some cases the appreciation, because sudden changes, whether it is appreciation or depreciation, both are detrimental for the investment and for business, for imports and exports. So it's not that currency appreciation is always good. Uh, Both have, its impact on some sections of the society. So government intervention in foreign exchange market. Foreign exchange intervention refers to official purchase and sale of foreign exchange that nations undertake through their central banks to influence their currency. So sometimes RBI purchases US dollar, sometimes it sells US dollar. So when it purchases US dollar, in one word, it is increasing the supply of Indian rupee. It is creating the demand for US dollar, but in other words, it is increasing the supply of Indian rupee. And sometimes it sells US dollar in the market. So if it is selling US dollar. So basically, it is buying Indian rupee. So it is creating the demand for Indian rupee. So this is called intervention in the foreign exchange market by the government. So if rupee has appreciated from 62 to 61, and in that case, RBI would buy a dollar. So if RBI would buy a dollar, it means it is supplying Indian rupee. So this will create a selling pressure on Indian rupee, and as a result, the the rupee that was appreciating will not appreciate that much. So if rupee is becoming stronger, RBI would purchase dollars and sell rupees. Purchase dollar and sell rupees are basically same thing. Because to purchase dollar, we have to make payment in terms of rupees. So it is creating a selling pressure on Indian rupees. So supply of Indian rupee will increase and availability of dollar will decrease. Similarly, if a rupee is depreciating, so earlier the rate was 61, now the rate has become 62. So how RBI will intervene in the market? What RBI will do? RBI will sell dollar. So if RBI will sell dollar, it also means it is buying Indian rupee, and buying Indian rupee means the demand for Indian rupee has increased. So availability of the Indian rupee in the market would decrease, and supply of dollar in the market would increase. So this is how central bank in India intervenes in the market to control sudden appreciation and depreciation in Indian rupee. It directly purchases from the market to control the depreciation or appreciation. The impact of appreciation and depreciation is not same on exporters and importers. They are opposite. So if Indian rupee is appreciating and you are an exporter, you export something, then you will become a loser. You will suffer losses. For example, I am assume yourself as an exporter of something from India to Europe or India to US. You're exporting carpet. So the amount that you are expected to receive is in terms of US dollar. So 10,000 US dollar. But now the rupee has depreciated, appreciated. So appreciation means earlier the rate was 76, now it has become 75. So now when you will convert US dollar into your own currency, that is Indian rupee, you will end up with lesser amount of money in your hands. So as an exporter, appreciation is impacting you negatively. So as an exporter, if your own domestic currency is depreciating, in that case, you will gain. So say, for example, you are expected to receive $1,000, $1,000, and rupee has depreciated after 3 months. For example, the rate has become 80 rupees per dollar. So you will receive 80 multiplied by 1,000, 80 multiplied by 1,000, so 80,000. So you will receive 80,000. So you are benefiting from depreciation. As an exporter, you are benefiting from depreciation because when the exchange rate was 76, you would have received only 76,000. But since rupee has depreciated, you are receiving 80,000 instead of 76,000. The impact of appreciation and depreciation on the importer is just the opposite of the impact on the exporter. So as an importer, if Indian rupee is appreciating, then importers gain. And if Indian rupee is depreciating, then importers, as an importer, you will lose money. Assume that you have to make a payment of 1,000. As an importer, you are supposed to make payment. And the exchange rate when the transaction was finalized, the exchange rate was 76 rupees. But since rupee has appreciated, so now $1,000 can be purchased in lesser amount of Indian rupee. So you have to spend less amount of Indian rupee to purchase $1,000 to make payment. So now you will, so say for example, it has become, the rupee has appreciated and the price has become 75. So earlier you were supposed to make payment of 76 rupees for $1. Now you are supposed to make payment of 75 rupees only for receiving $1, because you have to make payment as an importer. So importers benefit from rupee appreciation, and importers lose because of rupee depreciation. Okay, any question if you want to make any observation or question? Okay, thank you very much for joining this class, and we
Thank
will
you, sir.
continue.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.